one of the biggest things that I've like prayed for and like asked God to help me have is acceptance with joy, like to be able to accept the challenges and hardships and things that I have, but still be joyful in the midst of them.
My name is Alex Lewis, and you're listening to Words Matter, a podcast by Car Window Poetry. Every other Thursday, we invite you to hear from someone who's using words to make the world a better place. Today, I'm chatting with Max and Bonnie Kate&nbsp. They live in a 1979 Airstream full-time and tell stories through photos and film. Heads up, we did experience some issues with Max's audio, and I apologize in advance. Without further ado, let's jump into it. Here's my conversation with Max and Bonnie Kate&nbsp.
All right, I'm here with my friends Max and Bonnie Kate&nbsp. Max and Bonnie Kate, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having us.
Hey, man, glad to be a part.
Absolutely. So I've been following you guys for a while, but I know that there are definitely some people out there who may be just meeting you for the first time. So Max and Bonnie Kate, who are you guys?
Who are we, Max?
Complete dorks who don't know anything. We're just we're making up life as we go.
Aren't we all?
We are
married,
husband and wife duo.
Yes.
I'm a filmmaker and photographer.
Yes.
And Bonnie Kate is a photographer and a stylist.
New photographer.
And we travel around and chasing down stories so we can share them on the internet with people.
Yes, and we live in a little tiny silver bullet.
Yep, we live in an old vintage trailer called an Airstream.
Her name is Rosemary.
For those of you guys who don't know what that is, it looks like a really, really nice baked potato on wheels.
Yes.
And,
yeah.
And it's freaking sick. So
you have to come see her in person someday.
I know. I'm like, I was watching a video you guys recently did, and I was like, oh, that's so cool.
It's so fun. We totally gutted her out and did everything from scratch. We had to be very creative because it's a tiny space. So we have to make every square inch count.
180 square foot house. Sure. So yeah, we've been on the road for a full time 2.5 years, and we just launched a crazy project called Adventurous, which is a YouTube channel, which is the summation, the collection of all these stories we've gathered as we've gallivanted across this beautiful country. So.
Yeah, it's our kind of like our heartbeat. So all of our gifts and passions and things that we love and things that fill our cup combined together into one great big YouTube channel. So we just launched. It's been kind of scary, kind of exciting. I'm excited to see what is going to come out of it.
Again, huge experiment. We have no idea what we're doing.
So Max and Bonnie Kate, how did you guys meet? Do you remember your first date?
Oh my gosh.
Oh gosh, why did you know?
It is quite a story.
Any question but that.
No, it's a long story, but we'll try to make it short. We initially met at church, but like we didn't like meet like, hi, I'm Bonnie Kate, I'm Max kind of thing. It was just like we both went to the same church.
Also, I'm 5 years older than her, so
closer to 6, but yeah. And so we he was a good bit older than me, and he played drums at my church. And yeah. And then so he invited me to this class called Perspectives.
It's like a survey on world missions, like a missions kind of class you take at a local church or something.
Yeah,
Cool.
and I was about to be moving to Haiti. Oh, wow. And so that was the first time we ever really started hanging out and talking and, getting to know each other a little bit.
Becoming buds.
So we hung out for like, I don't know, not like, just like before and after the class a little bit. Yeah. And then we started like hanging out more.
And then we started ditching class and we started going out to eat. And I started paying for meals and started becoming a date.
Well, okay, but the first date was pretty epic. So like at that, like in my mind, we were just really good friends. Like I wasn't thinking, oh, this guy really likes me.
I had other plans.
And so that wasn't really like, we weren't dating or anything. But like the first date, Max planned this like huge, epic, like romantic
It was like a backwards scavenger hunt, reverse dinner. It's 4 different places with
my gosh, yeah.
It ended in a movie, like a projection of like Pride and Prejudice.
And
with
he made
flowers.
like this huge tent and like had all Bonnie Bear playing. But it was like just so amazingly over the top. Like, but it kind of freaked me out because I was 18 and I was like, oh my gosh, like I feel like this is a proposal or something. Yeah. But
that really worked out well.
It kind of backfired.
She broke up with me a month later.
Oh no.
But, okay. It ended up working
in the long run.
But and what really happened though, that's the short and funny answer. But she moved to Haiti, and I think we were just at different places emotionally. She was 18 and I was 23, and I was kind of head over heels, and she wasn't ready for a relationship, and it was just kind of hard. And I kind of came in hot, and I think it was just different timing. We weren't on the same page yet, but we broke up for a little bit. And also, too, she was 18 living in a third world country, which is crazy hard, fresh out of high school. And so she was figuring that out, and I was figuring out, starting a video company, and we just kind of had that season apart. And then, so that's kind of the first bumpy chapter of our story.
Yeah, absolutely. And so currently, you guys, you put so much beauty out into the world, this kind of inspiring, scintillating beauty that's, clearly refined by hardship. And at this point, I'm sure you've told the story hundreds, maybe even thousands of times, but would you be willing to describe the incident in 2012 that would go on to change your lives forever?
Oh my gosh, yes, I'd be so honored to. Like, it doesn't get old. Okay, so Max and I were broken up at this time. We hadn't talked in like probably about a month because I went on this crazy trip. The reason why I came back from Haiti is because I was incredibly sick. Like I was throwing up like up to 100 times a day, like really, really sick.
Yeah.
And I was really bummed because I loved Haiti so much and I just wanted to stay. I was supposed to be there for about a year, but after 3 months, my roommate called my parents and was like, hey, Bonnie Kate's really sick. Y'all need to get her home. So the next day I was on a plane ride home. I was home and then like I was in and out of the hospital. They couldn't really figure out what was going wrong. Like they diagnosed me with gastroparesis, which is like a very vague sort of term. And so they gave me some medicine that made it a little bit better, but I was still like incredibly sick. And so I was really just feeling super discouraged, and my parents are just amazing and so supportive. And they're like, you need to like go out and live before we have to make some like hard decisions. Like, do I have to get a pacemaker put in my stomach or a feeding tube or like these really kind of serious things? Like you need to go live. Like you can find IV, like places to get IV fluids along the road. Like you should go out. And so I ended up going on this road trip with my friend Elizabeth, and we ended up in Aurora, Colorado. And we were supposed to go hiking that day, but there was like a really bad drought. And so we ended up not going hiking and just went to our hotel room early. And that night we're like, what do we want to do? And so we last minute decided to go see the midnight premiere of Batman, The Dark Knight Rises. Yeah. And it's funny because like I had not seen any of the other Batman movies or anything like that. I just was like, sure, like not like a Batman fan, but we're just bored and decided to go. Exactly. And so just a regular evening, go to see a movie, and about 15 or so minutes into the movie, it looked like a toy or something like shot across the screen, but that actually was a tear gas bomb. And right after that happened, like I heard, gunshots started being fired. And I knew right away that it wasn't someone just like messing around, but like it was actually real. Like those are real gunshots. And so I remember ducking down behind my seat, and like there's a lot going on. There was, tear gas was going, gunshots were being fired. The movie was still playing and alarms were going off. A lot was happening all at once. And so in the midst of all that like craziness, I felt a big bang in my leg, and my whole body like jolted from the impact of it. And I knew right then that I had like been shot. Yeah. And so the craziest thing happened in that moment, like the last thing that you would ever expect. But in that like darkness, in that moment, that you would think would be the worst thing ever, I was just flooded with this overwhelming sense of peace and comfort. It was just like God was just so near to me, even in, the darkest, most horrific thing. And it was crazy. It was just like, I felt like the Holy Spirit just wrapped me up in a warm blanket. And even though I was in, so much pain, and I was thinking I probably wasn't going to make it out alive, like, because I was, bleeding out a whole lot. I was just flooded with this like beautiful sense of peace that like I can't even describe. It's just, it was so good. And so I like grabbed my friend's hand and we started praying together, and she didn't know that I had been shot because I was fairly calm. And so long story, like I ended up getting to the hospital, and it was a crazy ride how I got there. And I was really critical. I was in ICU for like 2.5 weeks there in Denver. And then as soon as I was like stable enough to be moved, they had like a ambulance flight. So like a teeny tiny plane with doctors and stuff that flew me to my hometown, which is Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And I was in the hospital there for like a month, and we had all kinds of really intense ups and downs, but God was so good and so faithful and just crazy near through that like whole process. And over on Max's end.
Yeah, it was nuts. I mean, the last conversation Bonnie Kate and I had before the shooting was pretty intense. We kind of had met once she got back from Haiti and talked about the breakup and, kind of expressed a lot of hurt in a very unkind way. And so that was like literally the last contact we had. And then, a month and a half later, she gets shot. So in that moment, I just realized just the frailness and the frailty of life, and how short life is and how precious it is. And I was just so thankful she was alive that any desire I had for more than friendship was overwhelmingly, replaced with just a gratitude for the fact that this human being is alive. This person that I care about is alive. So my agenda wasn't really so much paramount anymore. It was more just gratitude. It's interesting how gratitude replaces desire. It's kind of a strange thing. Yeah. And it was totally out of my hands. It just kind of happened. Like it just happened. So yeah, I just, at that point, I was just like, I'm just going to be her friend and serve her and her family and do anything I can. And even if that means being far away, great. Even if that means doing nothing, that's the best thing I can do. I was going to do it. So.
Yeah. And I'm the oldest of 7. And so all my brothers and sisters absolutely adore Max. And the night of the shooting, something kind of crazy happened.
Yeah. So the night of the shooting, like I just couldn't really sleep. I was kind of restless, and I saw the hashtag on Twitter or whatever. It's like 1 a.m.
Also, it's very uncharacteristic of Max to not be able to sleep. He usually can sleep anywhere.
Yeah, I can fall asleep right now. But I saw the hashtag on Twitter, and I was just like, this is weird. So, and then I remembered Elizabeth had posted something on Facebook like earlier that day about going to see a movie in Colorado, and then something in my spirit kind of clicked, this kind of motivated whim, this intuition. And I was like, okay, wait a minute. And, because I didn't know any details at that point of anything. I hadn't spoken to Bonnie Kate in months. I didn't really know Elizabeth that well. And all the details on Twitter were pretty vague at that point. It was very, like, right when it happened, it's breaking news. And so I texted Elizabeth on a whim, just saying, like, hey, I just saw this on Twitter. I know this is awkward. I'm sure you guys are having a great time. I haven't talked to you in months. Are you guys okay? And she didn't respond. Then I texted Bonnie Kate. At that point, she was my ex. And I was like, hey, so sorry to bother you. Saw this on Twitter. Can't go to sleep. This is really awkward. I'm sure you're totally fine. But I just wanted to confirm just because my imagination's getting the best of me. And she didn't respond. So I was like, okay, well, that's, maybe, it's, 2 o'clock in the morning in Colorado or whatever it is, 1 o'clock, maybe they're just asleep. Yeah. So then I texted Bonnie Kate's mom, just because I felt like I needed to know, have closure. And I was just like, hey, Miss Kathleen, again, saw this on Twitter, blah, 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 blah. So sorry to bother you. So sorry to wake you up. I'm sure you're asleep. And then she called me, and I remember like being in my room and like, you're in your bedroom at night and it's black and your phone light just kind of like lights up, I remember seeing her face on my phone and like not wanting to answer the call, but I answered it. And, she told me that Bonnie Kate had just been shot and they don't know much more other than that. She might not make it through the night. And that's kind of all I knew. So it was crazy.
It was really intense. And then right after that, he went and just like so my parents flew out to Colorado to be with me. And then the entire time that my parents were with me, Max was at home with all my brothers and sisters.
Yeah, because her family was like, her little brothers were like, my little dudes, like, my boys, the guys I was pouring into or trying to love and disciple and just be friends with them, just do life with them. So yeah, I was just like, I'm just going to show up and be present and serve. And I remember I got there at like 3 a.m. and all the kids were still asleep, because it was a regular school day.
Yeah.
And it was just me and her parents and her older sister, Madeline. She was awake. And we just kind of hung out, and one by one the kids would wake up and we'd tell them. And it was just kind of, trauma like that. It's just kind of, time starts to pass very weird, very oddly. Your emotions and your chemicals and everything in your brain kind of go off, and your body goes into survival mode. So I just remember like the news being on all day, Bonnie Kate's parents leaving, at some point, and then like just like news people and friends from church and everyone just being in and out like all day. Yeah. It was just crazy. Crazy. So yeah, I mean, it was super, it's, you see these things on Twitter and everything else or the news every other day now, it seems. Yeah. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's horrible. And then like it happens to you and you're just like, you have no idea how horrible. It's the worst. It's absolutely traumatic, but
God uses like so many traumatic and terrible things for good. And it's been crazy. Like since then I have, really bad chronic pain because I was shot with an AR-15 in my left knee. And so it completely blew up everything. And it's like such a blessing that I'm still here. But yeah, it's like Max and I definitely wouldn't be together probably if this tragedy wouldn't have happened. Like so many beautiful opportunities and like, I don't know, crazy things have come out of this really, really hard like thing. And so like after I got back from Colorado, after I got out of the hospital in Baton Rouge, Max would just come hang out and go with me to physical therapy and, just be there for my siblings. And slowly we like became friends again. And I mean, I totally fell in love with him again. And then,
again,
I mean, well, I think I really liked you. Maybe I wasn't in love with you. I don't think I was in love with you before. Yeah. But,
we're getting there.
yes, exactly. Until I got scared off and then I was brought back. But yeah, and so we fast forward, we got married like a year or so after dating.
Yeah.
Then
a year and a half, yeah.
We lived in Baton Rouge for like a year and we were both feeling like, what do we want to do? Like it was really hard and it still is really hard just dealing day to day with lots of pain and, limitations and things like that. I can't have a regular job and just simple things like normal walking or getting groceries or just normal stuff is really challenging. So I was getting pretty discouraged. And so we're thinking, how can we, what can we do to fill our cups, to live life to the fullest, to use our gifts, to serve and like somehow hopefully like make a living.
Yeah, the living thing was very much last on that list.
Yeah.
It's like how can we like do things that we love and then like love people while we do them?
Yeah.
And then hopefully we can pay the bills somehow.
And so we're still trying to figure that out, but that's how Adventurous was born, out of like a place of suffering and trying to like redeem, hard
the cards
broken
we've been
things.
given.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so
yeah, man, that's
we kind of
probably much longer of an answer than you have.
No.
That's how we got here.
Yeah, conciseness.
I don't know.
Is that a word?
We're not
being
very
concise
good about
is not our strength.
Hey,
for sure.
it's okay. I love it.
Pretty.
That's what this format exists for. So no, it's like I'm super thankful for you guys being willing to share all that, because it's definitely something that a lot of us can't even fathom. But to Max and the proposal video that you created for Bonnie Kate, which is absolutely beautiful, by the way. If you're listening, if you haven't seen it, check it out. But in that video, you say that Bonnie Kate learned to pray through the pain, to accept joy, to be thankful, to believe in the darkness, what she once knew in the light. And that really stood out to me, just because, for a lot of us, we can't even fathom to go through an experience like that, or to even witness or know somebody who's gone through an experience like that, and to still come out on the other side, being able to pray, being able to accept joy, being able to be thankful. Were there different words or reminders for both of you that you guys would consistently come back to during that time?
Oh, let's see. I feel like, honestly, they're probably similar words that I still am coming back to, you know, even still, because it's such a daily thing. I think one of the biggest things that I've like prayed for and like asked God to help me have is acceptance with joy, like to be able to accept the challenges and hardships and things that I have, but still be joyful in the midst of them.
That saying is from a beautiful narrative, a story called Hind's Feet in High Places. It's an allegorical story of this character who has to make her way through this mountain. And
to the high places.
To the high places, which in the narrative is heaven eventually. Yeah. And she has these things that are, these demons that are haunting her, and it's fear and maybe doubt, I think. But all of us should say, she's going through her journey. She's going through her journey, and she ends up in part of her journey, I believe, like in the desert. And there's this little bitty yellow flower in the middle of the desert. It's this beautiful little frail but strong thing, and she's talking to it. And again, it's an allegory, so she can talk to a flower in a desert. Totally normal. It's fun. And the flower's name is acceptance with joy. And so that's kind of where that illustration comes from. Is like, the flower didn't really chose to be put there. It didn't have a say in where it was planted, but it's blooming nonetheless. And so accepting things that are out of your control with posture of humility and joy is a choice, and it's a discipline. It's not something that just happens. It's a very willful act that Bonnie Kate is consistently doing, and as you do it, you kind of get stronger in that ability to abide and to trust and to persevere. Not
to say that we have it all together by any means. Like, I still feel like a flower in a desert, and it's dry and it's dusty sometimes, but like, God is so good. I think another thing that I like try really hard to remember is that, like, what I'm feeling and experiencing right now, whether that's like pain or darkness or whatever sort of thing it is, like knowing that, God is doing something bigger and is beautiful and has an impact past what I can see. So it may seem bleak and like there's no hope in sight, but, there is always hope. We have a sure hope. There's so much good. There's so much beauty. Like, the story's not over yet, This is a small fraction, and things are rocky and things are hard, but the light is real and is there. Even if sometimes all we can see is a little flicker, like, hold on to the flicker. Like, don't lose hope. Like, I think that's something that I'm daily like having to live out, is like trying to be joyful, trying to not lose hope, and also like be thankful for the good things that we do have, and kind of like outward focus. Like, my mom, ever since I was little, always would encourage us, like, whenever, I don't know, we're stressed out about something or upset about things, is like to, like, you're not here just for yourself. Like, we're here to love people and to serve and to like be lights and to be encouragers and to be, I don't know, there for other people. Like, and I feel like that's something that's really helpful too, or has been helpful for me, is like whenever I feel like, oh my gosh, I can't breathe, I'm in so much pain, and like all of that pain wants to do is just turn me inward. And like, we sometimes use the analogy of like turning us inward so much makes us into a small package. But like, instead of letting that happen, trying to be like, who can I encourage, or what, like, look outward. Who, like, even if it seems like something small and like meaningless, like that, those sort of like little practices of being other-centered and being thankful and choosing joy when, even like if things are really hard, as like little as they seem, they actually end up being really big things. And those are things that like change your life and like
make a life.
It makes it so different. Like, Yeah. And I think too, like all this to say, like, I am not an incredibly strong or like person of myself. Like I'm super weak, but I think the reason why, like, I don't know, I'm able to have so much joy and that sort of thing is because God is strong through me and in my weakness.
Yeah.
So like, it's not like I have it all figured out or, you know, it's all like fine and dandy and sunshine and roses or whatever. It's like, it's hard, but like a lot of times God shines brightest through the darkest things, you know?
Yeah. Bonnie Kate's brother said something the other day. And I think like, you know, living our life, obviously we are us, right? So we're in the thick of it and we're in the trenches. And when you're just kind of doing life and putting your head down and moving forward as we do, you don't really often take time to kind of survey like the land and where you've been, where you going. And Bonnie Kate's little brother Noah said something interesting. He was like, Bonnie Kate, like sometimes people don't know what to do with you because of what you've been through. And I was like, what do you mean by that? He's like, well, like you've been through this thing that's like this nightmare and it's the worst, but like you're still you, is what he said. And I never, like, it seems so obvious hearing it now that I'm saying it back, but like when he said it, I was like, I was like, that makes a lot of sense. Like that, you know, it kind of struck a chord. And all of which to say, to Bonnie Kate's point, like it, you know, Bonnie Kate is still Bonnie Kate, you know, boisterous and kind and outgoing and others focused and bubbly and beautiful and joyful. But it's just because like God's enabled her to be that. Like he's been our portion and our stay and her choice and her preference. And even when it's not her choice, it's a love that will not let you go. It's a love and a kindness that's inescapable. So I think so much of a testament to what her brother observed and what others I think observe about her that he shared with us, that she's still her, is that it's that more so God's still God, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Gosh. Oh my gosh. So good. I'm like smiling hard over here. Two things. I think like the first one is Bonnie Kate, something you said reminded me of one of my favorite car window poetry poems that I've ever seen, which essentially just said, your story, it matters. So lean in, step forward. Your story isn't over yet. And I think also so much of what you said brings me back to this quote that I've really just been kind of mulling over recently, which is, you know, what you can't change, use. And I think that for you guys, you have really taken that mantra of, you know, we can't necessarily change the situation we've been through, the pain that we've gone through, and, you know, the pain that we're currently going through. But what we can do is use that to encourage, to share stories of hope and share this beauty with the world through projects like Adventurous and so much of what you guys are doing. So what do you believe are the power of words and stories?
Oh, wow.
Words and stories.
It's immense. There's immense power there.
Yes.
Maybe the most power there.
Yeah, I think words and story are two of the greatest paintbrushes we have as human beings to express our experience and in turn let others feel what we're all longing to feel, which is, hey, you're not alone. I've been there.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's done through a lot of different ways, right? There's poetry, which I actually do a lot of.
There we go.
Yeah, I do actually. We were on a tour last year. I did a spoken word piece. It was like a month-long tour with some friends of ours, and it was fun. It's my first time doing that live.
Yeah,
but
so awesome.
anyways,
even words like set aside from poetry, like are so powerful too, because like just kindness, like small encouragement and things like that has the power to like change so much for good.
Yeah,
don't you think? For
sure. I mean, I think, you know, you look at any great wisdom that's been passed down, and that's stood the test of time. And for us, you know, with our hearts, it'd be the Bible. I mean, it's words and stories. It's a book. It's a book about, you know, a crazy lineage of people on the other side of the world where my dad's from, actually. And it's a book about, you know, a homeless Jewish man who built things with his hands and died for people who hated him. And so you look at that, and that's it. It's that simple. First, it was obviously words, passed down orally as people were telling stories around campfires in the desert for, years. And then eventually someone wrote it down and it became prose and poetry and narrative and, all these things that make up, good stories and good books. And I think really the biggest thing is, I think maybe this is the filmmaker in me, but we are all, like your poem you mentioned said, we're all living a story, right? And you have all these brands. I think social media has kind of enabled that awareness as a generation. Yeah. You have brands like Live a Great Story and kind of, like the poem you said, and you have this kind of ideology that, we're in this thing together. But all of which to say, I think we're hardwired for story in our spiritual and emotional DNA, in our kind of our equity as human beings. Like that's what catches our attention 11 times out of 10. When you hear Once Upon a Time, you have no choice, but your brain is going to turn on and say, okay, where's that go? And how does that end? And why? And so I think words have the ability to shape and form story. And that's obviously where art comes in, and art has the ability to push culture and move that ship a little bit, in a kind of a bigger way. But yeah, I mean, story and words in a lot of ways are everything. It's kind of the only tools we have, and understanding them and hopefully getting better at capturing them and communicating them is a privilege and a task that we don't take lightly, and one that I'm pretty terrible at, but I'm trying to get better at each day. So
yeah.
You guys recently just did this really cool thing with my friend Brandon Harvey called The Perfect Picnic. I was like, I'm watching it, and it's funny. I went and ran to this Thai place and got some pad Thai after watching.
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
Heck yeah, man.
So what is The Perfect Picnic, and what excites you guys about this project?
Yeah, so The Perfect Picnic is one of our 7 series on our YouTube channel, Adventurous. And The Perfect Picnic is pretty simple. We just sit down with thought leaders in various disciplines and walks of life and industries, I guess.
People with cool stories.
Yeah, people with cool stories and people who kind of like to think about weird stuff like we do, and we just chat. So it's kind of like a visual podcast in a way.
Yeah. Because I beforehand, I'll ask them what their favorite flavors are, what their favorite, foods and things like that. And I'll essentially make a perfect picnic. I'll, do the setup really pretty and have everything all together. And it's so much fun. We just get to be outside and gobble up delicious stuff while talking about fun things and people's stories.
Yeah. And it's interesting when you create a space like that, and it's no easy task. I mean, Bonnie Kate works her tail off. She really works hard to curate it and style it in a way that's beautiful. Yeah. But it's interesting. It's just kind of this disarming little haven of hey, let's just kind of sit down and let's swap stories and talk about real things and beautiful things and hard things. And, but there's a lot of power in a picnic, as crazy as that seems.
Yeah,
definitely.
Absolutely. And, it's kind of this idea of just coming around the table, even if a table isn't even necessarily present, just bringing people.
Yes. Oh, that's one of my favorite things is sitting down. I love food, but I especially love how it brings people together. It, it's it allows story and heartbeats and all that sort of stuff to be shared. And, it brings people together. It's so good.
It's interesting. Yeah. Food isn't word or story, but it's the only art form you can use all of your senses to enjoy.
And I feel like it definitely brings about a lot, at least if you're having good food over a good table, good stories, good words.
Absolutely.
Stuff happens, man. That's where it all shook out. I mean, fill in the blank, right? Early companies, early churches, early anything. I mean, it was some sort of table, people breaking bread and talking and throwing out ideas,
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we move on to the final 2 questions, I just want to take a few seconds to honor you guys. Max and Bonnie Kate, thank you so much for how you steward stories, how you are willing to encourage, even in the midst of everything you're going through and what you've been through, to know that there's still so much more to life. There's still so much more beauty that can be shared and put out into the world. And so I just want to honor you guys and thank you so much for just being awesome humans.
Thank you so much. I feel so humbled.
Too kind, man. Thanks for the love. It's not lost on us.
No doubt.
Thank
no
you.
doubt. Well, final 2 questions. First one is this. What is giving you life right now? What are the things that are making you feel alive, feeding your soul, waking you up in the morning?
Great question.
So many things. Well, right now it's really fun because, it's Christmas time. So I have rosemary decorated with all kinds of greenery and Christmas leaves and lights and everything. And that's making me super happy. But
it's like a Douglas fir forest in here.
I've loaded it to the brim with things that I picked outside. I think travel is something that gives me a lot of life, as well as good time with Max and sweet time with my family. Those sort of things just add so much richness. There's so much to being known by people and being loved by people. So that is something that encourages me and I love so much. So little things like fresh greenery and maybe more in travel, and then more deeper things like connection with people and being loved by people and loving people.
So good.
Yeah. I'm really excited about the work that we're doing, and but right now in this podcast, when we're filming it or recording it, our YouTube channel is only a month old, and so I'm just really enjoying this time of being able to respond to every person's comment and really be present and really be a good steward of the work that we've put in and the chances people have taken to film with us. I mean, so much of starting Adventurous was just building a little brand book and emailing people and calling people and being like, hey, will you do this thing with us that doesn't exist yet? Yeah. And just really trying to convince people that we kind of know what we're doing. And so I just want to honor them and the time and effort that they've put in to help us bring this dream to life. And I'm getting really excited about rereading The Reason for God by Timothy Keller. I just started it a couple nights ago, and it's been 5 years since I've read it. I need to read it every year because I'm one chapter in and I'm my brain hurts. And I'm getting really excited about fall wardrobe. I love me a good coat. Love me a good thick coat with a sweater underneath it. So I'm really excited about hunting season. I want to kill me a deer this year.
Oh, also, there's one thing that I just remembered. I'm super duper excited about my little nephew that's about to be born and come to this world. I cannot wait to be an aunt.
Oh my gosh.
So stoked about that.
Let's be aunts and uncles.
2 weeks away. We're we just found out a couple of days ago that my sister's going to be induced. And so we're we know the exact day when she's going to have a baby. And so we're it's
going to be great. It's one of my best buds in the whole world is now my brother-in-law. So the master plan worked. And, and now he's having a little boy. So we're super excited to spoil the crap out of that kid.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
He's going to be so loved.
All the love, all the things. So good. So good. Well, thank you guys again. You've already mentioned YouTube channel, but where else can people go to follow along with you, your lives, your work? Because I know just after you guys are super cool, and I've loved getting to talk with you, and I know there's going to be more people who want to follow along with you. So where can they go?
We're super not cool, but thank you so much.
We're super dorks. Hang out with us for 5 minutes. Didn't know that.
But okay, you can follow us on Instagram. Our YouTube is The Adventurous, US.
Yeah, so it's BE, the word B, and then Adventure US for us.
Mm-hmm. And then if you want to follow my Instagram, it's Bonnie Kate Z, and Max's is Be Like the Fox.
Be Like the Fox, unrelated to a hit song from a few years ago, which is The Fox Say, not that song.
Okay,
it's actually related to a poem. So I will just leave that. I'll leave that there, and if some creative listener wants to get on Google and figure that out, they will be very glad that they did, because it's my favorite poem in the whole world.
Yes. Once you know what that poem is, shoot us an email and I'll give you something nice. It'll be great.
Yes. We'll send you a handwritten postcard.
Exactly. Yes. So good. Well, Max and Bonnie Kate, thank you guys so much again. And I'm looking forward to meeting you guys in person and saying hi to Rosemary.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I can't wait. Thank you so much for having us.
That'd be super rad, man. Can't wait to have some tea and coffee and Rosemary. Hang out.
Yeah. Maybe even a picnic.
Maybe a picnic. There you go.
I love a good picnic. Well, you guys have a great rest of the day, and we'll talk soon.
All right, bud.
Bye.
Thanks, bro.
See ya.
Today's episode was produced by me, Alex Lewis, and our awesome music was provided by Julius Tunstall. Check him out on Instagram at jtulius. That's JTULIUS. If you enjoyed today's episode, I encourage you to leave a 5-star rating and review on your Apple Podcasts app. That's a major way more people can learn about the show and be impacted by these conversations. And I also encourage you to take a screenshot of you listening to this podcast and share it on your Instagram story. Together, let's prove that encouraging words and small acts of love can make a big difference in the lives of those around us. Until next time, you matter, you are enough. Remember these words when times get tough.